Hi and welcome to another tutorial video. In this tutorial video what I'm going to be doing is showing you how to write data to text files using Python. So the first method which we can use to write data to text files is the print function. So I've got some code here that uses exception handling and to handle the case where we get an IO error and we can't write to our file. And you'll notice that the print function is usually used to write data to the write text to the console if you've just started learning Python. But what we're using it for here is we're passing this additional argument here with the name of our file handle, which we've got from the file equals open myfile.txt w statement there. So the open, so when we're calling the open method, it returns a file handle, and then we can pass that file handle into our print function, and that will print the text that we pass into our print function here to the file instead of to the Python shell. Just briefly going through what the rest of this try except finally does then. This except, if there's an IO error and we can't write to the file, it will print fail to write to the file to the user, so that gives them a relevant error message so they know what went wrong. And then this finally essentially says if this file handle is in memory, then try and close the file. If it's not in memory, don't bother trying to close the file. And it wouldn't. And the reason it might not be in memory is if an IO error occurs and we couldn't write to the file. Okay, so if I run this code, then we should have myfile.txt being created and computing, and then a new line and tutor should be written to the file. Okay, so if we read that file in my text editor, then we can see that computing and then a new line and tutor has been written to the file using the print function. Okay, so another way we can write data to a file is by calling the write method on our file handle. And the argument that the write method takes is a string, so we can pass in hello and then a new line world. And then what this will do is it will wipe the current contents of myfile.txt because we've opened it in write mode. And it will write hello and then a new line and then world to our text file. So we run this code now, see what happens. So as you can see, the contents of myfile.txt, so computing and then a new line tutor has been deleted, and hello and then a new line and then world has been written to the file. So the write mode, when we open the file in write mode, it deletes the existing contents of the file. And then we can write whatever new data we want to the file. Another way we can write data to a text file is using the rightlines method. And this method takes a list of strings as an argument and writes those strings to the file. Now what's slightly misleading about the name of this method is that it doesn't actually write the strings on new lines. It simply writes the strings all on the current line of the file. So what we get there if we run that code is the string hello and then tutor written to the file all on the same line. So what we have to do then is we have to create a way of adding the new lines into our list of strings before we write it to a file using the rightlines method if we want to write each string in our list onto a new line. And this program, what it does is it asks the user for a string for the first line of the file. Then it appends that string to a list called string list and adds in a new line to that string. Then it will keep asking the user for strings until they say they want to stop. And then it will write all those strings to a file using the rightlines method. We say computing and tutor. So what should have happened now is our program should have created a list with computing with a new line on the end, as the first element in the list, and then tutor with a new line on the end as the second element in the list, and then use the rightlines method to write that list to the file myfile.txt. Okay, we can see that that's what's happened there if we look at our file in a text editor. And this is really the best approach to doing this. If you want to add new lines into your list of strings that you're writing to the file with the rightlines method, then you should try and add the new lines in as you're creating that list, however you're creating that list. Because if you use a loop to write those, to add those new lines in after you've created the whole list, you're just adding an additional loop into your program, which is increasing the amount of time that your program is going to take to execute, rather than using a program like this, which just uses a single loop. Okay, so finally then, let's take a look at this code, which uses the append method. So when we're using the append method, we use the same methods as with the write method to write data to a file, but instead of deleting the contents of the file before writing any data, what Python will do is it will preserve the existing contents of a file and then add in the new data that you choose to write to the file after the existing contents of the file. So what this should do then is, currently in myfile.txt we've got computing and then new line and then tutor. And if we run this code, it should append hello to the end of the file. So on the third line of the file, we should have the text hello. Okay, so if we look at that file in the text editor, we can see that that's what's happened there. We've got computing, a tutor, which hasn't been added to the file using this code, but with our previous program, and the append mode has preserved that text and added our new text onto at the end of the file. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this tutorial video. So the differences between the write and the append method are that when you write data using the write method, you're deleting the entire existing contents of the file before you write your data, and with the append method, you're just adding data to the end of a file and you're preserving the whatever is already in the file. And with both the write method and the append method, you use the same methods, so you can use the print function, you can use the write method, and you can use the rightlines method to write data to a file. Okay, so I hope you found this tutorial video useful, and thanks for watching.